Hi, my name is Kelly Burgess. I'm the Family Consumer Sciences Extension Agent with the University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service in Allen County. Today, I'm here to present a lesson to you called Sharing Meals Together, a Guide to Smarter Potlucks. Now, this lesson was part of our Mammoth Cave Area Homemakers plan of work, but I'm so glad that we have the opportunity to share it all over the state of Kentucky. To give a little background on this lesson, the main purpose is to think about smarter ways to navigate potluck meals. People with health issues might have trouble identifying which food choices at a potluck meet their dietary constraints. Other people might just be looking to make healthier choices as part of an overall eating pattern and healthy lifestyle. This lesson provides tools and techniques to make the healthy choice the easy choice. And if there is a slogan for this lesson, that is definitely what it would be. So a little bit of information about where this content or this subject came up from is it's based off of something called the Smarter Lunchrooms movement, which is something that was inspired by research from Cornell University using principles of behavioral economics. Now that sounds pretty fancy, but we're gonna dive into it a little bit more later just to give you some background about what that means and how we can actually put that into play in our lives. So the way this lesson is going to work is that I'm going to be swapping a little bit back and forth between a PowerPoint presentation that I'll put on the screen for you to see in just a moment and a little bit of video footage from myself at our Allen County Extension office with some demonstrations for you. So I'll let you know when we'll be switching back and forth between these two platforms, but hopefully all of it together will give you a pretty good idea of the concepts behind this lesson. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you so that you can see our PowerPoint presentation. If you'll just bear with me for one moment. Okay, so you should be seeing the title slide together. I want to give credit to Martha Yount, who is the mastermind behind this lesson. We want to thank her for creating great resources that all of us can use for this lesson. So as you can see, this is the title, once again, Sharing Meals Together, a Guide to Smarter Potlucks. And like I said, our little tagline is making the healthy choice the easy choice. So we might have different names for potlucks. I keep saying potluck, but you might call it something different. Maybe in your club or community, you call it a covered dish supper, a carry-in dinner, a shared meal, a fellowship meal. All of these names are just different names for a communal meal or something that we share together where everyone brings something. So when we think about potluck meals, large buffet tables laden with cheesy comfort food might come to mind, and plenty of desserts as well. A lot of times some of these choices are unhealthy and it can be difficult to make a healthy food selection at these meals. Today we're going to think about smarter ways to navigate potluck meals to better meet specific nutritional needs and promote healthy choices for all of those who attend. Traditional potluck meals can be a challenge. As I mentioned, people with health issues might not be able to tell which foods would be appropriate for them and their condition. Others might just be wanting to try and make healthier choices as part of their eating habits. But one thing that is important to note is that this is not going to be a list of foods to never bring to a potluck again. I'm not banning someone's favorite mac and cheese or chocolate cake by any means. But we are just going to be discussing ways to make these choices fit into an overall healthier eating pattern in general. So if you're able to watch this video with your Kentucky Extension Homemakers Club, there is an activity that you can do at this point, and feel free to pause the video at any time. I will be walking you through the activity by my voice, and so feel free to participate with yourself if you happen to be at home, virtually if you're meeting with your homemaker club online via Zoom or another platform, or if you happen to be in person with your club, you can use that as well. So I'd like to have you take a few minutes to think about the most recent potluck meal that you attended. If it helps to close your eyes to take you back to that time, feel free to go ahead and do that. Visualize how the meal was presented. Think about the placement of the main entree, beverages, desserts. How was it arranged? What kind of serving dishes were used? Was anything labeled? What kind of plates did you use? Did you run out of space on your plate at any point? And finally, ask yourself if you feel like you made good choices, good healthy choices at your last potluck. Why or why not? So as I mentioned, you can pause the video at this point and have a discussion with your group, or you can just continue going on your own. All right, so we will jump into the meat and potatoes of this lesson. We will be talking about behavioral economic principles, which, as I mentioned, might sound kind of scary, but basically these are ideas that are simple and easy strategies to help make the healthy choice the easy choice. So it pulls on things that just are our natural human inclinations, things that mostly are happening in the background of our psychology that we don't even realize that affect our eating habits. So this is where we'll be jumping back and forth a little bit between this video and some pre-recorded footage that I have for demonstrations. And so we'll go back and forth there. But the first one is, I'll just give you a brief overview. Manage portion sizes, increase convenience of healthy foods, improve visibility of healthy foods, enhance taste expectations, and utilize suggestive strategies. So with portion sizes, we will go ahead and jump over to my demonstration. All right, so as I mentioned, the first step in making your potluck healthier is managing portion size. And so other than, we can't really control what people put on their plates, but we can control some of the other factors that might affect how much people decide to put on their plates at a potluck or a shared meal. So I'll go over a few things that are things that you can consider as you set up and kind of build the environment and set the scene for your potluck. The first thing is the size of your plates in your servingware. So as you can see, this is a large plate. This is probably a 10-inch size dinner plate. We also have a smaller plate that might be considered more of a lunch style plate, but in reality, having a smaller plate for either meal, lunch or dinner, is a way to control portion size. So by having a smaller place to put your food, you are naturally going to take smaller amounts of food because you still want to be able to try everything before you fill up your whole plate. And this helps you visualize there is psychology behind having a full plate. So if having a larger plate that looks empty is less satisfying than having a smaller plate that looks full, even if it's the same amount of food. I also have an even smaller plate here for an example of what a dessert plate might look like. And so really controlling those portions of some of our more calorie-dense foods is a great idea. I also have examples of what disposables could look like if you're gonna go with paper or plastic or styrofoam plates for one of these events. And another consideration is our beverage. So we have two different size cups here. We have a 12-ounce and an 8-ounce cup. And so offering different cup sizes is an option, or if you have punch or if you have a sugary drink or a juice, you might want to only offer the smaller size of cups. In addition to the different cup sizes, you could strategically put the cups next to the drink that is intended to go with them. So maybe have larger cups next to the water, have smaller cups next to your special drink or your fun drink. All right, moving on, we have different sizes of serving platters. So as you can see, this is a large platter, and then we have something smaller like this. So strategically deciding which foods to place on which size of platter can make a difference. So in essence, you're offering more. The idea would be to offer more of those healthy, nutrient-dense foods and offer less in total quantity of those foods that we want to choose less often. In addition to choosing our platter size, we can also choose different sizes of serving utensils or spoons. So as you can see, this gray spoon, the actual scoop part of the spoon itself is quite smaller than this black one. The well is deeper and this can hold more volume of food. So deciding which spoons or which utensils you place with which items. For example, if we had a bowl of fruit, a large bowl of fruit, and a smaller bowl of something like mac and cheese, for example, maybe we would put our smaller spoon with the food that we would want to choose less often and put our larger spoon with the food that we would want people to take more of. So all of this is a review of how we can use portions to make our potlucks healthier. All right, so our next section is to increase the convenience of healthy foods. Now, when we talk about convenience, what comes to my mind is what's easy, what requires the least amount of steps to do it. A grab and go option is really what we're looking for here. This doesn't include having to mess with tongs or maybe a spoon that doesn't work just right. Or maybe not knowing if you're supposed to touch something with your fingers or if you need to find a utensil to use. And so we will be talking about single servings, having small cups and separate bowls. This is where also we want to talk about the order of the food. So the way that the table is set up does make a difference. We want to have our salads, our raw vegetables, and fruits first in line because those are sometimes what's convenient is what is the first thing to get to. So we'll hop on over to the video and take a look at increasing convenience. All right, so the next segment of making our potlucks healthier is to make healthy foods convenient. And so, like we said, we're not trying to eliminate any foods from our potlucks or say that you can't bring or can't have this or that. But what we can do is we can make it really easy to make the healthy choice, which is what this is all about. So I have a few examples here. One is making individual servings of, for example, fresh raw veggies. Now you can do this with any food, but these are really easy to do. And so just putting those in single size portion cups, you can even use something really simple like a Dixie cup. It does not have to be fancy. But having those pre-made where it's just very easy to pick up and go on about your business, walk around and talk to other people, having those pre-made is a lot easier than having to sit with the tray and pick individually with tongs exactly which fruits or vegetables you want. I think we've all probably been in the situation where maybe you wanted to choose a certain food at a potluck dinner and you couldn't find the right utensils to even pick it up. And so this kind of eliminates that problem. It's just very easy to go ahead and pick up. Another example is something we can do with fresh fruit. Now you could do this with veggies as well, but I tend to think of fruit on kebabs. But you don't have to even have special bamboo skewers or anything like that. You can do this with something as simple as a coffee stir stick. Go ahead and put your fresh fruits on there. And once again, those are very easy for guests to just pick up and grab exactly what they need. Hands free, you don't have to touch anything or use shared utensils, just easy to pick up and go. Next, you might be wondering why we have just an empty bowl here, but I wanted to remember to talk about the importance of having a separate bowl for a salad. So if you'll remember in the last segment, we talked a little bit about having smaller plates to control our portion sizes, but we know that fresh raw veggies can take up a lot of room on our plates, especially if you have a salad with maybe an oil and vinaigrette dressing. You don't want that dressing to touch all your other food if you're anything like me. And so we want to have a separate bowl available for salads. Not only does that encourage guests to choose the salad, but you are able to have more of those since that would be a healthy food. My last item is a poured glass of skim milk. And so having beverages that you want to encourage or to nudge people to choose already poured in cups is a very good way to make the healthy choice more convenient. And so by eliminating the obstacle of having to pour and pick up and put down multiple things or pick their cup up off the stack of cups, it's so much easier to just go ahead and pick up your drink that's already poured. So once again, these are all ways that we can make our healthy choices more convenient. Okay, now that we've learned a little bit about how to make the healthy choices more convenient, we'll now talk about how to make them visible. So we know that foods that are the easy to see ones are the first to be selected and eaten, according to research conducted by the Smarter Lunchrooms movement, which is what I mentioned the Smarter Potlucks is also based on. So to make healthy foods the star of the potluck, they need to be front and center, colorful, exciting, and impossible to ignore. One of my favorite things to do is to use levels. If you know anything about decorating or just visual appeal, even of something like a flower arrangement, the different levels is what makes something exciting to the eye. So in this slide, you can see the multi-tiered cake plate or platter, and that's something that we'll talk about a little bit more in the demonstration. So go ahead and enjoy that. The next concept in Smarter Potlucks is improving visibility of healthy foods. So this is just another way that we can nudge people in the right direction by the way that we set up our potluck. For one example, you'll see a multi-tiered serving device, if you will, and on it we have our fruits, our vegetables, and our whole wheat crackers. And so using something that is different levels is a great way to just make things easier for the eye to see. Our eyes go to what's colorful, our eyes go to what we see first, what's closest to us. And so having these different levels is a great way to make it easier for people to see the healthy foods that you want them to choose. Another strategy is to put, this bowl would represent a dip or maybe another favorite item that would normally be at your potlucks. And putting those favorite items right next to items that are maybe healthy that you would want to pair with that is a great strategy. Also, the order of the foods that you set up. So putting our fruits and vegetables first at the beginning of the line is a great way to have people choose those items more often. So I've lined up, in lieu of having an actual potluck to show you, I've lined up our recipe cards in the order that we might want to put them. And so putting our green items, our fresh fruits, our fresh vegetables, or even a salad made with those items, before we put all of our heavier cheesy casseroles or maybe fried meats, having healthier entrees available closer to the beginning of the line is a great thing to do. And then we have our dessert option at the end of the line. So of course we would want that to be the last item that people would choose. Other strategies for improving visibility is, I mentioned that color brings the eye's attention to things. And so using placemats, using napkins or tablecloths as ways to bring your visual appeal to something is a strategy that you can use, whether you color code or not. Just having something that is festive and appealing is a great way to help people to choose those food items. Be creative with things like baskets, serving platters, different ways that you arrange food. You might have seen before where somebody for Thanksgiving arranged a vegetable platter to look like a turkey, or arranged broccoli and tomatoes to look like a Christmas tree. There's so many different options of ways that you can arrange things to make them visually appealing, and that's our goal here. All right, so now that we've learned about how to make healthy foods more visible, let's talk about enhancing taste expectations. Foods that look delicious and sound delicious are more likely to taste delicious. Showcase raw fruits and vegetables by arranging bite-sized pieces in individual cups with an assortment of colors. So here's where this bright and colorful thing comes in again. You'll notice on the slide we have fruit kebabs. You also see heart-shaped bowls. So that's a message that's showing you that this is going to be heart healthy. This tastes great. I love the little banana dolphins. Those just, they make you want to take it. And that's the whole point. Using colorful serving bowls or colorful placemats underneath healthy options is a way to help people know to make those choices as well. So I don't have a demonstration for this one because I love the pictures that were already on this slide. So these are just examples of how you can make the healthy choice look even more delicious. Our last tactic is to utilize suggestive strategies. So this is where we're going to talk about using signs and labels, training your volunteers who might be coordinating the potluck or setting up the potluck to implement these strategies before people start to bring their food. One strategy we can do is pairing a healthy food with one of the group's favorite foods. So maybe you have a certain dip that you really enjoy, but serving it right next to raw vegetables is a great way to get people to take those extra veggies. Also using color coding to suggest certain nutrient needs such as low sodium or low fat. Those are options for suggesting when the rules are understood by the group ahead of time. We'll pop over to the demonstration for this topic.
Our last element of making smarter potlucks is to use suggestive strategies. So all of the strategies that we've mentioned so far have mostly been things that the average person might not notice. So it's things that you would do in advance to set up your potluck to be healthier that wouldn't necessarily, they influence behavior without directly people noticing them. Our last strategy, however, is a little bit more, as it indicates, suggestive, and so it's more about informing people about the choices that they're making. One strategy we can use is to use different colored placemats, napkins, or tablecloths to indicate certain items. For example, maybe your group decides to use a red placemat or tablecloth under everything that would be a heart-healthy choice. So those would be foods that are low in fat and low in sodium. So helping group members identify what those foods would be and then pairing them or setting that dish on the appropriate colored placemat would be a great way to make those choices. You can also follow the same strategy by using note cards. Maybe you label what each dish is so that people know what they're choosing, and maybe the note card corresponds to what it indicates. For example, maybe blue means no sugar added, or maybe yellow means gluten-free. So these are ways that we can be a little bit more direct in educating each other about what food choices we're making. We can also use colored label dots. So something as simple as putting a dot on the side of a dish, no writing involved. If it's heart healthy, maybe you choose pink and just stick that right on the lid. So we can also use, I have our Plated Up Kentucky Proud sign here because there is so many great plated up Kentucky Proud recipes that are available at your local Cooperative Extension office. And so while not everybody might have this kind of sign, we do have recipe cards that are available to everyone. And so using this recipe card, putting it with your dish, is a great way to show this is a healthy choice, this is made with Kentucky Proud produce, and it's a great way to nudge people in the direction of choosing that food item. So as a review, this section is about signs and making suggestive strategies for choosing healthier foods. And so clear ways established within your group that everyone can know what types of dishes they're selecting.
All right, so now that we've learned a little bit about how to set up your table, hopefully you have some great ideas for your next potluck. One of the reasons that we mentioned why this is so important is because people do have special food needs. So you'll see some images. I will move myself out of the way. Some images that indicate different conditions. For example, if someone has heart disease, if someone has lactose intolerance, if they require a low salt or low sodium diet, or if they're pregnant. All of these conditions might have special dietary needs that people might not be comfortable sharing with everyone at the group, especially if they're new. And so this is something that it's not necessary to identify particular members in your group who might have these conditions, but it's helpful for them if we can provide them the resources ahead of time to know which foods will be the ones for them to choose. So just like how we mentioned, having colored placemats, labels, signs, and stickers can all be ways to indicate which foods are appropriate for different groups. That way these people don't have to ask, does this food have gluten in it? They'll know by the way that it's labeled that it already is appropriate for them to eat. There is a sample survey card included with this lesson. It's called Welcome to Our Table, and it's something that people can fill out as they join maybe your shared meal circle or your potluck circle that they can do. Our next document that you can receive from your local cooperative extension office is a sample sign-up sheet. So simply by the way this sheet is organized encourages a healthy meal. You'll notice that there's separate categories for green vegetables, starchy vegetables, red and orange vegetables, and not that many slots for dessert. So I'm sure we've all been to a potluck at some point when maybe it seemed like the dessert table was the only one that had options on it. And as much fun as that is, if we are trying to promote a healthy meal, it's really not the very best option. So this kind of avoids the little blunder of everybody bringing the same food. It also just helps make sure that you have a diverse plate. Okay, so Smarter Recipes. This is an example from one of our UK publications. For Smarter Potlucks, hash brown casserole. Like I said, cheesy, savory, comfort food. Casseroles are probably some of the most popular dishes at our potlucks. And it doesn't mean that we can't have those, but you can make a few simple, easy recipe modifications in order to still have these same recipes. So for example, this hash brown casserole recipe has less saturated fat than the traditional. It uses 1 cup of plain Greek yogurt as a way to reduce that and add extra protein. And it uses cornflakes that are considered a whole grain. All right, so you'll see a few other examples here. We have fried chicken. These are examples that I actually came up with. So if I was teaching this in person, I would have had us all bring food to share a potluck together as an example. But unfortunately, since we're not in person, we can do it this way. So I put some things like sausage balls or fried chicken as opposed to maybe a eggplant lasagna. Or a cucumber and chicken salad that might be alternatives to traditional potluck style food. I also have chosen a picture of green bean casserole, one of my favorites. So technically this might be considered a green vegetable, but by the time we put all the cream and the fried onions, it might not end up actually being the healthiest choice. So one of our plated up Kentucky Proud recipes is a broccoli salad that does incorporate more greens and a little bit less of the high fat items. For our starchy sides, I put corn casserole and scalloped potatoes. Plated up Kentucky Proud also has some excellent options for alternatives to these dishes that are a little bit more nutrient dense and a little bit less calorie dense while still having the same effect. Finally, for dessert, one of my favorites, chocolate cake, I had to include on here. But we also have plated up Kentucky Proud recipes for desserts, such as this blueberry cream cheese pound cake. It is so good. It truly is everyone's favorite. And so even having some of those different options for desserts, or another strategy, like we mentioned earlier, to control portion sizes, is to go ahead and cut up those desserts ahead of time and pre-portion them. If you think that taking more than one dessert will be, if you're like me, you want to try a little bit of all of it, go ahead and cut those desserts into small pieces. That way people are not overwhelmed by having full servings of each dessert. Finally, one of the last things we want to emphasize is food safety during potlucks. If you've ever wondered about how long has this been setting out and this has mayonnaise in it, those are not questions that we want to be asking. So there's 4 recommended steps to stop the spread of bacteria at our potluck meals. So we have clean, separate, cook, chill. Clean refers to washing your produce beforehand, washing your hands before you get started cooking, and washing and disinfecting all of your surfaces. We want to separate our raw meats from our fresh foods that will not be cooked. So we can do this by the way we order things in our refrigerator. We want to keep our raw meats on the bottom and our produce closer to the top so that we don't accidentally have any drippage of raw things onto things that will be eaten fresh. Cook, so we want to cook to the proper internal cooking temperature. And you can find information about this at your local cooperative extension office. The proper cooking temperatures for poultry, beef, pork, fish, they're all different, and we can definitely help you find that information. And chill. So we want to keep hot food hot and cold food cold. If it's intended to be a warm food, we want to keep it over 140 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's a cold food, we want to keep it under 40 degrees or at that refrigerator temperature. So having the proper setup for your potluck things, maybe keeping warm things in a crock pot or a slow cooker on low, and then cold things, having them over an ice bath is a great way to manage that temperature. Okay, so this is the fun part. If you happen to be at a potluck meal right now, you can do this with your group. You can pause me. You can think back to that potluck that you remembered, or you can plan to do this activity with your group the next time you meet together, whether it's before or after you've had this lesson. So this is an evaluation tool to just kind of help you see how many of these strategies you're already doing and what might be some areas for improvement. This is a tool, once again, that you can receive at your local cooperative extension office. All right, so time for you to put this into action. We're so excited about this lesson, and just look forward to all of the healthier potlucks that will be going on around the state of Kentucky. We also have the opportunity for you to make a pledge to host smarter potlucks. This is another document that you can have access to at your local cooperative extension office. And it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect, but it just means that you're going to try to really put some of these strategies into play. All right, we are almost to the end. And if you've been around Extension for a while, you know that we love to get feedback on our lessons. We want to see what you learned. Are you going to plan to use it? And we might follow up with you later on to see if you have put this information to use. So don't forget to fill out the evaluation provided by your local extension agent and let us know how you liked the lesson, what you learned, and any other information or questions you might have. So as I mentioned, Martha Yount is our regional specialist for food and nutrition for the expanded food and nutrition education program. And so if you have questions, you can contact her. Her information is below. And we just thank you so much for joining us for this lesson today. Once again, my name is Kelly Burgess, Family Consumer Sciences Extension Agent with the University of Kentucky in Allen County. And we hope to see you back again next time.